She said, well, yeah, it's a little true. She's like, no, I didn't necessarily complain about it, but yes, it is true. And we'll get to that and what that rumor was. That at 9 a.m. this morning. Also, 8 o'clock, we'll talk to Scott from winningfornextyear.com. I'm going to have to talk a little Cavaliers, as apparently they've agreed, at least in theory, to an extension with Evan Mobley. Now, this is one of those things where it's done, but it's not done. They still have to finalize the deal, but apparently the two sides have agreed on a 5-year, $224 million, that a rookie contract extension for Evan. Again, agreeing to a 5-year, $224 million, that according to WKYC.com. And they're quoting the AP there. He blossomed into one of the NBA's brightest young stars since being drafted with the number 3 overall pick, that back in 2021. Again, pulling from WKYC.com. I felt like last year, especially, people were asking, Evan, you're going to have to, we get it, man, you're a good defender. We get it. You're going to have to open up offensively a little bit if the Cavaliers are going to be able to rely on you. Sure enough, as they got deeper into that playoff chase last year, he started to play much, much better offensively. And so we'll see now with the addition of a new coach, Kenny Atkinson. You get him solidified now, going back to Mobley here on a 5-year extension. He's going to feel like, all right, they want me. I'm good where I am. I got my bread. I got all this. Let's see if we can make this work together. So we'll talk to Scott about that. Is Donovan now done? Evan now done? And you have a new coach for the Cavaliers. We'll talk about that. Also, Major League Baseball. Now, after the All-Star break, Guardians have a couple of games underneath their belt. We'll take a look at those, the results of that, and what holds in the future the remainder of this season for the Guardians. We'll talk to Scott about that. That at 8 o'clock this morning here on Rock 106.9. Also, apparently, more and more of you are headed for a sleep divorce. I don't really like the sound of this, but I'm not married. I don't cohabitate, so I might not have any idea what the hell it is I'm talking about. But apparently, so many of you are headed for a sleep divorce. You can weigh in on any subject that we're talking about. That using the microphone talkback button if you listen on iHeartRadio. There's also the text line at 330-450-7625. And you can find me on your socials, that at The Stansbury Show. Wednesday is the Stansbury Cup, our golf outing. We're back at Raintree Golf and Event Center, and I'll have a foursome to give away today, that on behalf of Kwanzaa. So we'll get you hooked up with that around 7:45 this morning. We will do that. We'll get, like I said, I have a foursome to give away for our golf outing. That is this Wednesday. Your sign-up sheet at WRQK.com. But we will pass out a foursome, and we'll do that here at 7:45. All right, I think we all know what Topic A is, right? Topic A we will do at 7 o'clock. This is, your president has said, no, sorry, I am going to suspend my campaign for re-election. He is going to step aside. We knew this. We have known this. I've been saying for 2 years plus, they don't even want to run him. They wanted to run her. They were starting to get nervous about the fact that they didn't think they were going to be able to, and we ended up being proven a little bit right about that. Because the rumors were, well, he wasn't going to endorse her. Nobody else wants to rally around her. Oh my God, she might get challenged, and it looks like she could. It looks like Manchin may challenge her. It looks like, we said, there will be problems circling the wagons around. They're already seeing some of that. But it's official now. He's going to step aside. I was told over this weekend that he can't do that. I was called clueless by a listener. Sure enough, yesterday, no, he's going to step aside. He's going to suspend the bid for re-election, and they're moving on to Kamala Harris. I'm not sure what it does. And we'll talk about it at 7. But I'm not sure what it does. Nobody voting for Joe Biden was voting for him. They will flat out tell you to your face. They're not voting for him. They were voting against something else. So if you were willing to vote for Joe Biden because you just don't want to see Trump be president, and I could understand it if that's your view. I don't have to agree with it to understand it. I think I can understand it. Then I don't think Kamala Harris is so bad that you go, well, no, I can't vote against him now anymore doing this. I get why Republicans are like, dude, she's a lightweight, because, wait for it, she's a lightweight. And so I understand why they think that. But I don't think anybody on the left side of the aisle is going to go, oh, well, now I have to abandon this ticket and go vote for this guy over there that I just cannot stand or stomach. I don't see it. I don't see that. So I'm not, like, what really changed here? Everybody knew this is where we were headed. Everybody knew it. You could see it. This is how we knew it. They started telling you that the videos you were seeing of the president not being able to speak, walk, or keep his eyes open were cheap fakes, that you were faking the video. That it was like Hollywood magic coming from the fingertips of society trying to make him look bad. That's when we knew. It was like, oh, okay, so they're getting close. All right, so they're getting close. They're ready to yank him. And sure enough, threw him out there in the debate to embarrass him so the country would go, oh, okay. All right, we're ready now. And that's exactly what they did. We knew what was happening here, right? This was, and somebody asked me last week, and I said this on the show Friday. How did you see this? It was easy. This was easy to see. All you had to do was not hate Trump. If you disliked him, you would have still seen him. But once they get you to hate, now vision gets blurred, and you can't see. That's how people didn't see it. As long as you didn't hate the guy and you were like, I know what's happening here, right? I can see what's happening here. You can see it coming down the road. So we'll get into it at 7 o'clock. I got a couple of ideas on who I think she should pick to run with. And I got an idea on who they're actually going to choose for her to run with. And that part I think might be bad for her. We will take a look at that. We'll do that coming up at 7 o'clock this morning, right here on the Stansbury Show. Get a bonus $1,000 for your week off of me at 9 a.m. I'll rock the bank with you. Give you that first keyword of the day. We continue those all day. Apparently, there was another little bit of an internet out. We'll see how that goes. We'll try to find some more information on that. How delusional people. I was like driving up to the course. Today's the day, man. I'm going to get figured out. I'm going to play great, right? You get there, shoot 200, like everything over your knee. Happens all the time, right? But people can be delusional. And money is so important, you'll find yourself daydreaming, thinking, what if it happens? I win the Powerball? What happens if this happens? What if I have an uncle that nobody knows about, dies and leaves me a bunch of land? All that kind of stuff, right? It can kind of happen. And we can become a little, again, to use the word too many times, delusional about money. And I think I have an example of it. I'm reading some data here from a new survey that tells us that 1 in 3 people are convinced they have a way to strike it rich. Now, it doesn't really get into age groups here, because I'm willing to bet the younger you are, the more optimistic you are, right? And maybe we can get back to the word delusional, right? But you think you have all these years left ahead of you yet. I'm smart and figuring the world out. I know this. What about this? If they would just do this and not this, this would be better. This would be faster if we did this, if we did that. And so I understand how people could think that they are on an idea that could end up making people rich. 33% said that they feel that they have a great idea that would make you happier and them loaded. Now, 1 in 5 people, right, making it, applying for the patent, which that's where a lot of people realize. I think sometimes people think, oh, I have this idea, and it's like, well, somebody else had that idea too. We don't know everything that's going on in the patent office, right? If you think you have a good idea, that's a little bit, but people who just think you're going to win the lottery, I mean, I guess I buy tickets, so on some level, do I think I'm going to win it? Well, if you talk to me long enough, what I'm going to end up telling you is, no, I don't think I'm going to win it, but if somebody's going to win it, I at least want to have an opportunity at it. Now, I have a few listeners who tell me, good luck, you're never winning it. You're never going to win the Powerball in a town this size, or even in Ohio. Like, they're like, it's all California, it's going to be here, it's going to be there. And I have people tell me that all the time. But, you know, I don't know about that. I think we've seen plenty of Powerball winners from throughout the country. Yes, California's probably going to have a ton of them, as it's a populated state, and that I could understand, but I think you'd be able to win it. But 19% of people just thinking, yes, I'm going to hit it big in the lottery, that feels, you don't believe that. The pool boy and like all of that, that's what we're after. That's what the dream is. The dream isn't to become better. The dream is become loaded. And when I heard that about the American dream, I was like, well, that's interesting. And somebody else said, well, the problem with the American dream is this, though. It makes that against raising taxes, and because it's like, well, you know what I mean? That's why they say some people will oppose raising taxes on the rich, is because, like, well, it's not going to affect you, but one day it might. I might be the next Elon, right? And I could see that. I don't think it's all of you. I don't think it's me. I don't think it's all of society. But I think there is something about the American dream that I think that is true of that. 40% of those currently holding on to a wealth-driving idea want to start a business service. Another 27% of them have a stock tip that they feel is the potential to bring them fortune. Now, I didn't have it, but a buddy of mine told me very early, get on NVIDIA. What are you doing? You're scared to death of AI. Put the money into it. Get on NVIDIA. So I did. And I got into NVIDIA before the stock split. And I don't know a whole lot about this. This isn't my world or my arena. But for a bedrock explanation, when a stock splits, you get 10 shares for every share you have. Because the value, right? So like I bought in NVIDIA at like $100, like $130. It then went over $1,000 per share. So I made quite a bit of money there, right? Well, then it splits, creates more stocks, puts out, lowers the value of all stocks. So since your value went down, you get more shares, 10 shares for every one share you held. And so now your evaluation is right. That's how a lot of people got rich with Apple. I believe Apple split 5 times. Which if you had stock initially and made it through all 5 flips, you are living probably now on your own island. Here's what's happening. There have been predictions out there that NVIDIA is going to split at least 3 times. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm not telling you to do anything. I'm just telling you I got that stock tip, and I am very thankful that I got it. Matt, if you're out there listening this morning, buddy, thank you very much for that one. Thank you very much for that one. It's going to feel good paying off the house there. Now, a quarter of people, 26%, with those with a big idea, think that they've thought of a game-changing product that's not been done before. Now, of course, people think this. That's why we got shows like Shark Tank, right? Is because there are enough innovators out there. There are enough people thinking about it. And I'm sure this has only exploded since COVID, right? You locked, that makes it sound like, people were in their homes. They weren't walking around a lot. They weren't outside a whole lot. And they had time to sit inside and drink. We found that out. To have sex, we ended up finding that out. And yes, maybe at that whiteboard, creating an idea. I think what's worse in this, that anything that people I'm okay with you being optimistic. I don't want to urinate down the leg of optimism. Yeah. But if you really believe you have an idea that can make you rich beyond your wildest dreams, why would you not be doing the effort part of trying to make that come into fruition? The idea doesn't do anything. The application of the idea does everything. 9 a.m., I'll rock the bank with you. Get you that first $1,000 key. Not a bad way to start Monday. Money is what we've been talking about already this morning, because apparently 1 in 3 people think they're sitting on an idea that could make them rich. Another 19% just felt like, I'll hit the lottery. That seems a little crazy. Like if that's your plan, it'd be nice. I mean, I'll buy a ticket occasionally. I can be one of these people. Oh, it's only 30 million? Nah, wait till it's over 100. It's like, what? Like, as if I have $30 million, I'm not walking into the office today like, I'm pretty sure I just did the last radio show I'm ever doing, right? Like, of course I am. Of course I am. A little shocked by this, but I was not shocked by this, that men were significantly more likely to feel confident in their idea was going to make them wealthy one day. 39% of men versus 26% of women. I bet there's a lot that goes into that. The stereotype is that in relationships, women are a little bit more grounded. You know what I mean? You kind of have to like hold the man by the hand. The man just wants to go spend all the money in the account. The woman's like, we got a mortgage to pay, right? Like, and now that's a stereotype. Whether or not that's true in reality in your life could or could not be, right? But that is kind of the way it's perceived and the way it gets talked about in, public and movies and television and all that kind of stuff. Like I said, 26% of people with an idea think that their idea is game-changing and it's never been done before. And I think that comes down to just not knowing how many patents are in, the mill waiting to be approved or, denied and all of that. I think there's a lot of ideas out there that are probably already put forth that people think, oh, this would be great if we just had this, if we didn't do that. Now, I don't want to be dismissive of an idea that could make you rich if you think you have one. Once upon a time, we sold a rock in this country, put the word pet in front of it, and somebody became a multi-million. I mean, the Slinky, for crying. I mean, like, when you look at some of the ideas that have taken off, the pound puppy, I mean, like, the amount of things, just from, like, when I was a kid, that's like, dude, what? And, like, millions and millions of dollars have been made. So you might. Because what is that old theory? What's that old saying? a sucker and their money is soon separated. Right? Is that maybe that's it's one of those things that I feel like my dad used to say all the time, right? And that can be true. So you might have an idea that could dupe a bunch of people into, especially these days, right? There's a stand-up comedian, and God, I wish I could remember his name because I felt like this bit's actually really funny, and I think he should get the credit for it. So I apologize on not knowing the name. But he said, I felt like all we had to do to start duping people into buying the oils again was change the name from Snake to Essential. And then people started buying them again. And it's very funny, right? Like, because Essential, like, come on, right? Like, people are buying that. There are people who walk into a building today to go see a palm reader. A palm reader, honey! Like, it reminds me of, like, my parents were watching, like, 60 Minutes once or something. One of those. 2020 or one of those magazine shows, right? And it was like the onset and the birth of dog walking had just taken over Southern California. I was like a kid. And I remember my dad was laying on the couch. I was sitting on the living room floor. He's like, hey, you! That meant me. Whenever I was about to learn something, it was like I didn't get called. And he's just looking at the TV, watching this idiot walk like 10 dogs. Ever walk back through my door talking about how you're broke ever again. Look at the ridiculous country you live in. I mean, just furious about dog walking. That man found a way to be mad about every damn thing. I know. Apples not falling far from trees. I know. 26% of people say that they feel unlucky with money. 12% very unlucky. Well, if you have things that fall out of the sky, that can be unlucky. Now, what a financial advisor would tell you is that that's not really unlucky. What you should know is something's going to fall out of the sky. I reference this guy a lot. His name is Dave Ramsey, and I read one of his books. I read multiple of his books. Financial Peace University was really, really good. The one that turned my life around was Total Money Makeover. Now, he's an extremist. Like, he tells you not to buy coffee and not to buy kids' birthday. I mean, he goes crazy. But if you just apply even a third of it, you'll end up having it. But see, people yell at him now because he's bald and that little bit of hair he does have is gray and he's got glasses, so he's a boomer that doesn't understand. They sold out everything underneath everybody and all of this. Because his big thing is, Christmas didn't make you broke. Quit using Christmas or a birthday as an excuse on why you're broke. His thing, and when I read it, I was like, oh, he's right. They don't move Christmas. It's December 25th every single year. And in the book, he says, if you start preparing for it in April, well, I don't know what my kids want in April, so how do I go buy it? Well, we might not know what the children want in April for December's Christmas, but we know they're going to want something, and we have an idea of what it is we would like to spend. And his thing is, start setting the money aside in April, then all of a sudden in February, you're not going to be turning around talking about how you're broke because of Christmas. He's right? Like, plan on the thing, and that's part of his whole book, is he makes you ready for the $5,000 thing that falls out of the sky. He also talks about how everybody's worried when you get paid, I got to pay this person, I got to pay that person, I got to pay Hey, you get paid first. You get paid first. You take X amount of dollars that goes into your savings account. First, before anybody else gets money, you get money. You build that, then you pay them. And he builds off what's called the debt snowball system. I'm going to guess most of you probably have envelopes on a kitchen table, maybe end table somewhere, and it's all your bills, and you're laying it out, and you're looking at the mortgage, which is $200,000. And you got a credit card over here that's, you probably got $3,000 on it. But you think about the $200,000 because it's a big number. It's over your head, this and that. He says work on it separately. List all of your debt, smallest to largest, and go down that list and pay them off, smallest to largest. And this was true when I did it. He said, once you get that pen out every month and you start scratching off those things you owe, here comes the debt snowball. And you're rolling down the hill. Here comes the momentum, and you start knocking things off. It's actually a pretty good system. It's not a bad system. Again, he's an extremist. I did not do everything in that book, but I did a lot of it. And I've said this before, and it's true. I make pretty good money. This is not the most money I've ever made in my radio career. It's not. It's not all that far off, but it's not the most money I've ever made in my radio career. Yet I have more money today. And again, it's because of that. I felt like I was one of those people. I'm just a little unlucky. And it's like, no, my bad habits made me unlucky. There are unlucky people. That's a thing, right? Like, because you can be prepared for an emergency, you're not always prepared for the medical emergency, right? Like, we're not always prepared for that one. You know a stove could go bad, so keep $1,000 off to the side here to buy a new stove. You know that can happen. You can kind of prepare. Nobody's preparing for the medical emergency. Once you get in one of those, then all of a sudden that's a different subject we're having, right? That's a different conversation that goes on. But I'm not sure everybody who thinks they're unlucky, this was true of me. I've felt like I was unlucky with money. I wasn't. I was just bad about it. My parents taught me a lot of things, but they never had any money, so they couldn't teach me about it. You can only teach people what you know, which is why my dad taught me about all the mistakes he made. But he didn't teach me all that much about money because he didn't know anything about it. Rocking the bank with you at 9 a.m. That first $1,000 keyword gets passed out. All right, so topic A, I think everybody knows, is the president will not seek re-election. He is suspending that campaign for re-election. Duh. I mean, we knew. And I don't got to go all crazy and strut around, tell you how right I was and all that. I don't. But I said when they put the ticket together, they're baiting the hook. They're trying to make her a national name during this first term. They're going to throw him to the side, and they're going to look to run her. I got called crazy. I got called a cult member. I got called a lot of different things. And I understand it. A lot of different people listen to this show, thank God. That's okay. That's my job, is to take those jabs. That's my job. At least partially. So that's okay. We're fine. I'm a big boy, I can handle. Was right, though. And here we are. It was one of the reasons why I said, no, I can't vote for this ticket, and I voted for a third-party candidate last time, Joe Jorgensen, for anybody who thinks I'm anti-woman. So there's that. But I am, and was, anti-Kamala Harris. She does very little to impress me. None, as a matter of fact. But I'm not sure what this does. Like, I saw a lot of people over the weekend just assuming this hands Trump a victory. I'd slow down there. Nothing that what they just did combats the vote blue no matter who. They're not voting for anybody. They're voting against someone else. That's powerful. Powerful. That's why, like 4 or 5 months ago, pre-assassination attempt, all that stuff, I called my brother, who's a diehard conservative, and I was like, bro, I think y'all should think about changing your guy. They've sullied his name so far. It's I don't think he reaches across the aisle to get anybody. I said, if you want to win, I think, because I told him, they're going to move off Joe, bro. They're going to do it. They're going to have to. We're seeing too many videos now. They called him cheap fakes when we noticed the fact that he couldn't talk, get to the end of a sentence, everything else. They told you everybody was cult members who noticed it. Now we find out behind closed doors it was literally everybody, everyone in the party. Everyone we're finding it. Now, it was like for a little while. They were nervous you were not going to accept Kamala as your candidate. Let's put him on the debate stage. I bet they're all right with it after they see that. I said it for 2 years. This man doesn't understand. He's got enemies in his own party who are after him, and he doesn't get it. He doesn't understand it. He thinks everybody's from the other side that's after him. It's not true. It's not true. There are plenty of people on the opposite side who are after him. He was being hunted inside of his own party, and we now know it for sure. So there's that. But if you were vote blue no matter who, you sold yourself on what you were seeing with Joe wasn't true. They're going to sell themselves on what they see with Kamala is not true. And they still hate Trump as much as they did, maybe more so. It's also a pretty good pick. Because if you criticize her at all, and I mean at all, how will that get positioned? You're sexist. And maybe racist. Right? We know that. That's how the game's going to get played here. We know that. What about the debates? Well, that's going to get tricky. Somebody said to me this morning through my text line, 330-450-7625, somebody who is not a Trump fan at all, said, well, Biden's moving out. Let's see a debate with Kamala and the overgrown Oompa Loompa, is what he had called Trump, which is what a lot of people call him. Well, I understand that. Because you hear this a lot. Oh, a former prosecutor versus a guy who was indicted 90-some times or whatever. Guys, all right, I'm going to say this in a different manner than how I actually feel. She barely was able to get through Tulsi Gabbard debate. Guys, she's not a job, and people rely on, your chief of staff and advisors and all that. Yeah, she's not going to be the first person that has to rely on a staff. Not even close. Well, let's not pretend she's a great debater. She isn't. Now, she can win that debate against Trump if it comes off like he was being mean to a woman, which let's not pretend like that might not happen. Whether he does it or not, I believe it will be positioned that way. And there's a better than average chance that he does it. Since he gets off on doing it. He kind of does. That's why I said after the assassination attempt, everybody's like, oh, we got to dial down the rhetoric. I said, guys, be careful here. Right? Trump is not exactly dial down rhetoric guy. Right? He's a lot of things, but dial down rhetoric ain't his bag. That ain't his thing. We got to be a little careful. But we saw this coming. This was easy to see. Again, I'm going to say it until they put me in the ground. The only way people didn't see this is through a hatred of Donald Trump, which blurred the vision. You could not want him to be president. You could think he's bad for the country. You could vote against him. You could do all of that, and I think you still would have seen it. I think people who are literally moved around the board by the television, I don't think that's most of you, but those people do exist, and we know that they do. The people who are moved up and down the board by the television are going to be moved up and down the board by the television here. It's vote blue no matter who, and she still gives them that argument. She doesn't lose them that. They may not be as excited for her as they were Joe Biden, and I don't think that they are. Again, it looks like she's going to get challenged inside the party, which, for anybody who thinks that's a mess, it used to be the way it was before corporations started buying everything up. I mean, that's kind of the way it was, right? So I'm not so sure that's a terrible thing either. So who does she pick? I saw Michelle Obama as a choice. Guys, not happening. They wanted to run Michelle as the candidate. We all know that. Michelle, behind closed doors, this is a belief I hold. I'm not sure I'm right, although I am. Michelle Obama wanted to run, but was like, I'm not running if Trump is on the ticket. Do everything you can to get him off the ticket. If that happens, I run, we win easy. I think there's zero chance she was ever going to sign up for even a possibility that she loses to him, since Barack could not hand off his White House after leaving. Hillary lost. That gave you Trump, and they are worried about an 0-2 loss there. I thought that was what they were going to do, but it went once Trump was like, it was proven he's still going to run all that, you stopped hearing a lot about Michelle O. I don't think they're going to pair those two up together. The betting favorite in Vegas right now is Josh Shapiro from Pennsylvania, and I understand why. I thought, and it looks like I'm wrong about it, but I thought they were going to team her up with Pete Buttigieg. And I thought that was going to be a mistake, because I don't believe Kamala Harris is a good debater. I don't. And I thought Pete was going to be more impressive on the campaign trail and in the debates than she was, and it was going to make people wish that the ticket was flipped and he was running and she was running with him, not vice versa. And I do worry about that with her, that depending on who she picks, she can be overshadowed by her own ticket. Say what you want about Trump and Vance, and there's plenty to be said. Vance is never, and I mean baby never, not one time, ever going to come off as if he is overshadowing Trump. Donald is too big for that. Absolutely nothing about her that's going to make them abandon that thought process and run towards Trump. That's just not going to happen. Back to the Sam 625 to text your studio. The microphone talkback button on iHeartRadio is at your disposal, and you, current president, is not going to seek re-election, suspending that campaign to be re-elected, and now throwing the support behind his vice president, Kamala Harris, which there had been rumors he wasn't going to endorse her, and I was like, guys, Guys, he's going to endorse her. If he doesn't, he's going to get called all the dirty names, all the ists and all the isms and all the other things. He'll get called it all. And he ain't going to walk out of the presidency with that, all that mud on the back of the coattails. He ain't doing that. He's going to throw his support behind her. At some point, the party's going to be like, well, we can't look like we're in this much of a mess. He has to at least get lined up behind her, which is, in fact, now happening. Chris disagrees on the debate, because I just don't think she's going to be all that great of a debater. As a matter of fact, we sat her at it over the last couple of years while being in, right? And that's actually what, okay, they can't prop up on stilts. So did you maybe waste yours? Right? I mean, come on, right? Like, wait, I mean, come on. It's one vote. You're fine. You're fine. This was the most predictable thing of all time. There's a fiction writer I love. He's created all of my favorite TV. One of the shows he created was about the president. The man I'm talking about is Aaron Sorkin. And he is easily my favorite fiction creator for television and movies ever. It's not close. Before it got announced that it would be Kamala, he went to the New York Times, I believe. And again, this is the guy who wrote The West Wing, for crying out loud. Wrote an op-ed urging. He said what the Dems should do is pick Mitt Romney and run him as a Democrat. Quote, surely Mr. Romney, who doesn't have to be introduced to voters, would peel off enough Republican votes to win. Probably a lot, he said. The double haters would be turned into single haters, and the Nikki Haley voters would have somewhere to go. Mrs. Haley having just disqualified herself when she endorsed the leader of an unsuccessful attempt to overthrow the government. That again, Aaron Sorkin. But when Biden actually announced his withdrawal from the presidential race this afternoon, now all of a sudden, that was followed by his endorsement of Harris. And so now Aaron Sorkin's like, whoa, wait a minute, I got over my skis there, my bad. Let's put everything behind Kamala Harris here and move forward. Which is, if you're trying to win an election, what they should do. I'm not sure that's what you're going to see. There are a lot of people in and outside of the government that feel the way I do about presidency is winnable in a way that I don't think we ever did before. The office has been being demystified, both by the type of, have a lot of candidates looking around going, oh, dude, I could beat her, though. Like, she's not going to be all that popular. I could beat her. He gets all. As a matter of fact, I think a lot of Democrats feel like he's been their version of a rhino for years, meaning Democrat in name only. A lot of Dems feel that way about him. I don't know enough about the track record to be able to give you my opinion on that one way or the other, but I understand why people think it. And so I don't think that's going to do much. But we all knew this was coming. This was the easiest thing to see ever. They baited the hook when they put the ticket together back in 2020. Always, and I know Jill Biden doesn't want to understand this, because guys, that's who's been running the country the entire time. You were told there was cheap fakes about the guy not being able to speak. Right? I mean, right? Probably. Right? This is, I know Jill and Joe didn't know this. That was always the party's plan when they put the ticket together. The Stansbury Cup is on Wednesday. There's a sign-up sheet for you at WRQK.com, opening up a few more slots for you. And